Welcome to part 10 of this series, the Roman Empire and the Holy Land. In this video we're going to be speaking about the major empires of the ancient world. So the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Medes and the Persians, just having a general conversation. But before that, let's just recap what we were speaking about in the previous video, because we were speaking about the other two major powers, the Hittites and the Egyptians. And I've added something to the map. I've added Syria, because in the previous video we had the arrows pointing towards the Holy Land, but we didn't have Syria on the map, so I want to mention that quickly. Now we know in the Bible that the land of Syria is actually referring to the land of Aram. So the Greeks referred to the land of Aram as Syria. So let's put Aram on the map. So Aram son of Shem, because let me just show you a couple of things just to quickly show you why we're looking for Aram here. So one of the important ones, the researchers on YouTube, they found something interesting with this place called Damisak. So Damisak in Nigeria, but it's very close. It's on the border of Nigeria and Niger. And this word Damisak, it seems very similar to Damascus, and Damascus was an important Aramean kingdom. So if we can connect this Damisak with Damascus, that would be very important to try and understand the land of Aram. So that was one reason. And another one was to do with Urartu or Ararat, because we learned from the book of Jubilees that the land of Urartu also fell for Aram. And we spoke about the capital of Urartu was Tushba, and we noticed on this map here we have Tusba. So we were also thinking about this for the land of Urartu or Ararat. And now there were some other reasons as well, but I just want to share those two main ones with you, just so you can have an idea why we've got Aram here on the map, or Syria. So I want to just quickly mention again what we said about the Hittites with the kingdom of Cilicia. Remember what we were speaking about with Cilicia and this source that said that the Hittite kings had freedom of movement in this region, and that's important for their battles with Syria. So that's why I wanted to put Syria on the map, so that we can just to see it, that in order for them to continue their battles in Syria, it's important for them to have freedom of movement of the Straits of Gibraltar, because if they lose access to the Straits of Gibraltar, then their holdings or their territory in the land of Syria is going to become vulnerable. So I just wanted to show you that. So we've actually got Aram on the map, or Syria on the map, so you can see where we're looking for that, so that it makes sense with that source. So the Hittites have an influence on the land of Syria, and they have influence and holdings in this region, and there's conflict with Egypt as well. So that's why I got those arrows pointing there. And then we spoke about Assyria waiting in the wings, and the growth of the Assyrian Empire is going to become a problem for the Hittites and the Egyptians. And then we saw that intermarriage between the Hittites and the Egyptians. Now that may be because of the growth of the Assyrian Empire, and maybe also because of maybe the Hittites and the Egyptians realized that they couldn't defeat each other. So there was like a stalemate after the Battle of Kadesh, so that famous chariot battle. So maybe realizing they can't really conquer each other, and they've got a growing problem with Assyria, trying to end this conflict and try to become or form an alliance with with this marriage. So now they can focus on Assyria. And we can see here we got Canaan in the Holy Land. So we also spoke about that. And I just want to mention one more thing before we speak about the empires. That's it's very interesting, this word Damascus or Damisak, because it seems to be quite similar to the word Meshech. So I was just wondering whether this word Damascus could actually be named after Meshech. So we were speaking about Meshech and Aram, because if we go to the meaning on this page, Abarim, the meaning of Meshech, we see how one of the related names is Damascus. So there seems to be a relation with this word Meshech and Damascus. And they were speaking, I just put forward that idea, could there have been a union between Aram and Meshech? And maybe that could be why Aram named one of his sons called Meshech. because I just want to mention, remember we spoke about the Eastern Mushki and the Western Mushki, and said that we might speak about it, and scholars connecting the Mushki with Meshech. So I think the western branch of the Mushki would be the region of Cappadocia. So what we were speaking about with eastern Spain, that would be where, you know, maybe the strongest part or the power of Meshech would be, or the main part of Meshech. So that would maybe be the western branch. But then there was another branch, the eastern branch, and I think that would be towards the land of Aram, or the land of Syria. So maybe that could show that potential relationship between Aram and Meshech, that some of the descendants of Meshech stayed, you know, in the region of Syria, you know, creating these two branches that were, you know, in that source. So I just wanted to speak about that. And I also noticed something interesting on this page on the Mushki, because remember they're connecting this potentially with Meshech. I've got something highlighted here. According to Armenian tradition, the city of Mazaka was founded by and named after Meshach, or Mashak, a cousin and general of the legendary patriarch Aram. So it's just a tradition, but it's interesting how this one says that Meshach was a general of the legendary Aram, so the patriarch Aram. So, you know, if he's a general in the army, it's just another way of potentially seeing this connection, that there could be a closeness with Meshach and Aram. So I just wanted to share that with you as well, because I thought that was interesting. And we were speaking about the white Syrians. Now that was a little bit confusing. So I tried to put that clarification in the video, underneath the video in the comment, because I was a bit worried that that could be a bit confusing. You know, what are that term white Syrians, who did it apply to? Was it to the Hittites, or was it to the descendants of Meshech? Because if we just go back in time, we notice how the Greeks referred to the land of Aram as Syria, but those words don't really seem related. You know, Aram and Syria, they seem very different. So if it is referring to the Hittites, so the white Syrians, you know, maybe that's showing that there was a different branch to the Hittites, so like a northern branch. So that's what I'm thinking as well, because if we think about Canaan coming into the Holy Land, you know, there would have been Hittites in the Holy Land, and they would have been very powerful in the land of Canaan. But then the Israelites coming into the land of Canaan and defeating the Canaanites, that would have, you know, broken the power of the Hittites in that region. But we know that's not the end of the story for the Hittites, because they were still a very powerful empire, you know, a match for Egypt. So I think there's, you know, different branches to the Hittites, and this northern branch, you know, maybe that's what the Greeks were referring to as white Syrians. So I just wanted to kind of add that to the clarification. And then maybe the land of Aram is known as Syria because the Hittites were ruling over this region. So hopefully that, I know it's a bit confusing. I was kind of like regretting bringing it up with the white Syrians, because, you know, maybe we didn't really need to speak about it, but that's hindsight. Okay, let's go on to the empires. We're going to speak generally about the empires, and then we're going to try work with the map in the following video. I think that might be best. So we mentioned how Assyria is going to become the superpower. Let's go to the map on Assyria. So the map that we've been presented with. So we can see the Assyrian Empire at its greatest extent. So I just want to speak about this. Okay, so this is the Assyrian Empire at its greatest extent. And now obviously this is what we've been presented with. And if we go to the Hittite Empire, okay, so this is the Hittite Empire that we're told is predominantly in Turkey. So one thing we notice here is that the Assyrian Empire, it doesn't include all the territory of the Hittite Empire. You can notice that. So I want to just explain that. So we can see here we have the Lydian Empire. So Lud, well, it could be Lud, son of Shem. And if we notice how this changes, so after the power of the Hittites is broken in the region, notice what happens to the Empire of Lydia. See how it expands. So the Empire of Lydia grows. And then if we think about those two empires combined, so now we're going to look at Lydia, and go back to Assyria, notice how their empires combined will swallow up, let's say, the old Hittite realm. So I'll show you that again. So this is the empire of the Hittites, and then if we go to Lydia, we can see how that's grown. And if you combine that with the Assyrian, it almost encompasses the previous empire of the Hittites. So just to kind of make sense of that, if we think about the Bible, if this Lydian empire is Lud, son of Shem, and we've got the Assyrian empire, so Ashur, son of Shem, they'll be brother nations. So it could make sense how they could actually, rule this land together, but still with Assyrian being the dominant power, and the empire that's going to be, having, let's say, all the say. But that, just to try and understand why the Assyrians don't conquer Lydia, because it could be they were a brother nation. Okay, so let's move forward, and then what happens is the Medes and the Babylonians, they form an alliance to destroy the Assyrian empire, and there are some other kingdoms that make up the alliance, but we're speaking mainly about the Medes and the Babylonians. So if we go to the Babylonian empire, what we can see is that so this is the new Babylonian empire. We can see that it does, it takes up a lot of the territory of Assyria. So it's very similar to the empire of Assyria. If we go back, so we can see it's very similar, but we're told that the Babylonian empire never conquers Egypt. So remember we spoke about Nebuchadnezzar, that according to the sources he never fully conquered Egypt, and then we had that source saying that Nebuchadnezzar may have campaigned towards the Pillars of Hercules, and then we said that doesn't really make sense with the picture, just to refresh our memories with what we were saying. So we've got the Babylonian empire ruling alongside the Medes. So we go to the Median empire. I know this might be getting a little confusing, but this one shows it quite nicely. So we've got the large empire of the Medes, but we also still have the Babylonian empire here, because they've defeated the Assyrians together, so they formed an alliance. And then we also have the empire of Lydia. So we've got kind of now 3 or 4 powers in the region. The Lydians, the Babylonians, and the Medes, and they're ruling over this former territory of Assyria, and it's kind of, there's like a status quo. Everything's at a status quo, with the trying not to obviously create major problems with a major war breaking out. So they try to keep a status quo. If we try to keep it simple with the terminology, that maybe with intermarriage, there's some intermarriage as well between the kingdom of Lydia and the Medes, and that's going to be important for this next part, because now we're going to speak about the Persians. So Cyrus the Great, he conquers the Median Empire. So now, what belonged to the Medes, the Persians take control of that former territory. But because we spoke about that intermarriage between the Medes and Lydia, the kingdom of Lydia tries to seek revenge for what the Cyrus has done. So because the Persians conquered the Medes, and Lydia makes war against Persia, and then we're just going to go very quickly through the story, that Persia conquers Lydia. So now what we have is the Persian Empire becoming greater than all the other empires, if we look at it, because it's got now the Median territory, and it's also now going to swallow up the former realm of the Hittites, because they conquered the Lydian Empire as well. But then what that does is it brings the Persians into the realm of Lydia. And the way it kind of worked in the ancient world, when a kingdom's conquered, so when the Persians conquered Lydia, the Persians are going to expect that all these kingdoms are now going to submit to their rule, because what belongs to Lydia now belongs to them. That's the way they see it. But it doesn't always go that way, and these other kingdoms might rebel, or they might try seek better terms. But because the Persians conquer Lydia, it brings them into the realm, let's say, it brings them closer to Europe. Let's use that word. That'd be an easier way to describe it. So the Persians now are coming closer to the realm of Europe, and then we're going to get the famous wars between, the Persians and the Greeks. So that's where I'd like to leave it for this video, and we see here with the timeline 500 BC. So I just wanted to have a general discussion with these empires, to follow them in order, and just to have a very simple way of trying to describe how they follow one after the other, and also kind of how they work together. And now what we'll do is we'll try to, in the next video, try to explain what we've covered and try to do it on the map, because I think it would have been too difficult to try work with the map and cover all that information with the different empires in one video. So I hope you found the video interesting. Maybe if you're new to this stuff and you're not good with the ancient empires, maybe it might have helped to just go through them and to see how they followed one after the other, and how they kind of work together and the intermarriage. So thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.